Big city's mess, his ways the only, nothing less. Solar panels on the roof, solar panels on the roof. No one tells him what's the truth. Lies his words from local folk, hates the government side pokes. Plants the seeds the garden grows, hates the talk of those he opposes. God his place, his peace of mind. Voices loud, the blind lead the blind. Life, liberty, he's so clear. He's the echo we all hear. Takes a stand, won't bow down. God his kingdom wears the crown. Rises goods from local folks, hates the government side pokes. Plants the seeds the garden grows, hates the talk of those he opposes. God his place, his peace of mind. Voices loud, the blind lead the blind. Life, liberty, he's so clear. He's the echo we all hear. Takes a stand, won't bow down. God his kingdom wears the crown. Life, liberty, he's so clear. He's the echo we all hear. Takes a stand, won't bow down. God his kingdom wears the crown. Wears the crown. Life, liberty with a musty beard, preaching loud for all to hear. Self-sustained, don't live in fear. He ain't buying what they steer. Life, liberty with a musky beard, preaching loud for all to hear. Self-sustained, don't live in fear. He ain't buying what they steer. Self-righteous here to tell, the world's gone straight to, well, got no love for ATF, says liberals, they're a mess. Life, liberty, he's so proud, living off the grid, not with the crowd. Shaking fists at big city's mess, his ways the only, nothing less. Solar panels on the roof, solar panels on the roof. No one tells him what's the truth. Lies his words from local folk, hates the government side pokes. Plants the seeds the garden grows, hates the talk of those he opposes. God his place, his peace of mind. Voices loud, the blind lead the blind. Life, liberty, he's so clear. He's the echo we all hear. Takes a stand, won't bow down. God his kingdom wears the crown. Rises goods from local folks, hates the government side pokes. Plants the seeds the garden grows, hates the talk of those he opposes. God his place, his peace of mind. Voices loud, the blind lead the blind. Life, liberty, he's so clear. He's the echo we all hear. Takes a stand, won't bow down. God his kingdom wears the crown. Life, liberty, he's so clear. He's the echo we all hear. Takes a stand, won't bow down. God his kingdom wears the crown. Wears the crown. Life liberty with a musty beard, preaching loud for all to hear. Self-sustained, don't live in fear. He ain't buying what they steer. Life liberty with a musky beard, preaching loud for all to hear. Self-sustained, don't live in fear. He ain't buying what they steer. Self-righteous here to tell the world's gone straight to, well, got no love for ATF, says liberals, they're a mess. Life liberty, he's so proud, living off the grid, not with the crowd. Shaking fists at big city's mess, his ways the only, nothing less. Solar panels on the roof, solar panels on the roof. No one tells him what's the truth. Buys his goods from local folk, hates the government side pokes. Plants the seeds the garden grows, hates the talk of those he opposes. Got his place, his peace of mind. Voices loud, the blind lead the blind. Life liberty, he's so clear. He's the echo we all hear. Takes a stand, won't bow down. Got his kingdom, wears the crown. Buys goods from local folks, hates the government side pokes. Plants the seeds the garden grows, hates the talk of those he opposes. Got his place, his peace of mind. Voices loud, the blind lead the blind. Life liberty, he's so clear. He's the echo we all hear. Takes a stand, won't bow down. Got his kingdom, wears the crown. Life liberty, he's so clear. He's the echo we all hear. Takes a stand, won't bow down. Got his kingdom, wears the crown. Wears the crown. Life liberty with a musty beard, preaching loud for all to hear. Self-sustained, don't live in fear. He ain't buying what they steer. Life liberty with a musky beard, preaching loud for all to hear. Self-sustained, don't live in fear. He ain't buying what they steer. Self-righteous here to tell the world's gone straight to, well, got no love for ATF, says liberals, they're a mess. Life liberty, he's so proud, living off the grid, not with the crowd. Shaking fists at big city's mess, his ways the only, nothing less. Solar panels on the roof, solar panels on the roof. No one tells him what's the truth. Buys his goods from local folk, hates the government side pokes. Plants the seeds the garden grows, hates the talk of those he opposes. Got his place, his peace of mind. Voices loud, the blind lead the blind. Life liberty, he's so clear. He's the echo we all hear. Takes a stand, won't bow down. Got his kingdom, wears the crown.
Yeah, that was bad. You got the J right. It's going good. How about you? You got the first half right. You got J and Hessel. So you got to get the Hessel Fort. So there you go. Fort. Oh, yeah. Hazelstrat. Hazelstrat. Yeah. Most people can. About 5 years now. No, actually, if you want me to tell that story, I was a honeybee inspector, and if you didn't know that was a thing, most people don't. But the state of Tennessee hired me to inspect honeybees, and I was at one inspection on the west side of Knoxville, and I got done with that inspection. I was heading over to the east side of Knoxville to do another inspection, and I stopped to get some gas, and I thought it was like a crime scene. That it looked like a news channel was there, and the police were there. And me being a little bit nosy, I kind of watched a little bit, and I went inside, paid for my gas. I came back out, and then I realized somebody was climbing up to get the overhead shot. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this is like a TV show or a movie set or something. So I was just
Right.
kind of like being nosy, watching. And one of the grips comes walking by, and being a smart ass, I said, hey, how do I get in on this? And he goes, oh, we'll go talk to her. I'm like, are you serious? He goes, yeah, we're always looking for people. I was like, okay. So I just kind of walked over and I stood there, and she was directing. And as soon as she said cut, and she goes, can I help you? I said, I was just wondering. He said, I need to ask you about how to get in on this. And she goes, well, just go to Jupiter Entertainment on Facebook. And I was like, that's it. She goes, yeah, just apply for anything that you think you could do or you look like. And I'm like, okay. And that was in the summer, forgot all about it. It was Christmas time, family's over. I was, sitting in the chair, and I just pulled up Facebook, and I'm like looking through it. And I'm like, oh, Jupiter Entertainment. I looked it up, and the first guy pops up that they're looking to recreate a true crime. The guy looked like me. He was in the army like me. He was a computer programmer like me, and I was like, well, why not? So I put on my pair of glasses that he had, took a quick selfie, sent it in. The next day, they offered me the lead role. I was like, this is way too easy. And then I show up, and the director, Robert, he was just incredible. And, he comes in there, and, and I'm sitting in the holding, and all these people know each other. They've been
Right.
acting together for years, and I'm just like the lone guy over here. And I'm already kind of an introvert anyway, so I'm just sitting there. And they did a couple of more scenes, and then Robert comes over. He goes, all right, you're up next. And your first scene, we're going to go in the karaoke bar here, and you're going to be singing. I'm like, wait, wait, wait. Nobody said anything about singing. I'm 90% deaf in my one ear, like 60 in the other ear. And I'm like, I can't hear myself sing. I never was a good singer. He goes, oh, no, no. It'll be audio played over the top of it. You just have to mouth it. I'm like, oh, well, I can do that. And through the 3 days of shooting, I had a blast. They ended up killing me in the end, split my throat, rolled me up in a carpet, threw me into the Tennessee River, and it was just a blast. And at the end, Robert was just an incredible director, and he's like, "Hey, come on back. We love you. You ever see anything else? Just come on. Apply for it." I'm like, "All right." So that first year, I did 17 different shows. I'm like, "Well, this acting thing's pretty fun, and apparently it's not too hard." And then I start talking to other actors, and they get like 1 to 3 projects a year. And I'm like, okay, well, apparently I'm better than I thought. But at that point, and at this point, I've never seen anything I'm in.
Well, and I mean, if you haven't noticed, you've got a fairly deep voice. You're so you fit well into some roles that you played, right? If officer, um, let's see, what was that? I on IMDb, a lot of law enforcement. Um,
Yeah.
so it kind of an intimidating voice that ability. So this is something that my wife and I kind of started put is I'm gonna try and get into the not gonna do not gonna do got a face for radio. So so I'm
That's
gonna
a lot of
try and
stuff.
do some voiceover stuff. Um, but what is your favorite role that you've done so
It was for a kind of like, remember Fantasy Island, where you get
Fantasy Island?
immersed,
Yeah.
and these people would pay big money for a ticket, and we would immerse them into the whole weekend. And they would show up like a Thursday, and by Friday evening, that's when all the actors start getting involved, and they didn't know what was real and what was fake, and it lasted until like Sunday morning, and it was a blast. And I got to play the mob boss, and it was just the most fun playing the evil guy, because playing a cop,
Yeah.
it's easy work. A lot of times, I don't even, I hate to
Are
admit
you
this,
saying
but a
being a
lot of the
cop is
shows,
easy?
well, playing on the shows, it's the same thing. I show up, I look at the scene, I gather evidence, I interview the subjects, and when I get to the interrogation room, I'm either, talking to the people that, the family of the deceased, or I'm interrogating the bad guy. It's pretty much always the same. So it's not a lot of fun. But when you play the bad guy, it's a lot more fun, because now you get to yell at people, you get to cry, you get to laugh, you get to act hysterical, you act crazy. You have this whole wide range of emotions. It's so much more fun. It really pushes your acting. So I really like playing the bad guy.
So since you told the story before of how you got into it, was it was it something that was just kind of spare the moment and you were like, "Hey, let's try it," or had you been thinking about getting it?
Oh, this goes all the way back to Kung Fu Theater on Saturday afternoons after the cartoons went off the TV. And
Johnny,
oh yeah,
get over here.
the spaghetti western, or the spaghetti martial arts, where they were saying so much and you barely heard any actual English come out.
Right.
I and I've been in the martial arts since 1979,
Okay.
and I even got inducted in the Hall of Fame back in 2008. But I've always wanted to be in a martial arts movie, and I have yet to be in a martial arts movie. That's still the goal. But I always wanted to be on TV. But I was like a severe introvert. You come up and you would talk to me, and I would look at my shoes. You might get a shrug out of me. To get a yes or no was like dragging it out of me.
Right.
I would break out in a sweat. But now, I went in the military. They don't like introverts. They get that. They just beat that out of you. So I've gotten over all that, but I still have those introvert tendencies. But it was just something I always wanted to do. When I had that chance, I was like, oh, okay, I'll think about that, And then it was a good 6, 7 months later before I even applied for the job. But then I got the first one. I was like, well, let's see if I can get me another. I was like, okay, I need another. And now it's to the point where I'm like, I'm itching because I haven't worked for, a few weeks. And I usually take off like December and January unofficially. I just don't, look for jobs. I have my agent look for jobs. And then come February 1st, I usually start looking. Well, this February, the first week, I was on 2 different shows. I got offers for 3 movies, and I got another movie that I'm still filming, and then another one that's in the works. So the first week of February was just gangbusters. Now I'm waiting to grow out my beard so I can get my reoccurring role on a TV commercial for a local business.
That's awesome. So yeah, that's
Fun.
I see that you're a narrator, so just narrating movies or shows you do beginning part of your character, like talking about what's happening, or do you do narration for
A little bit of both. It's mostly the movies and TV. I haven't got into the voiceover work yet. I've done one voiceover, but really wasn't much. So I'm still trying to get into that field, because everybody's like, "Oh, I can't believe you haven't done voiceover. You got the incredible voice." I'm like, "Man, I do characters too." So I mean, it should be an easy thing, but it's one of those things. They've all got their people, their go-to people already. So it's kind of hard to break into that. area,
Right.
just
So
like
that's what I'm looking at. So there's the website Fiverr that
Mhm.
go on and you stuff like I think that you would be really good at like the theatrical trailer voice, you know? And I've thought about that too. Um but I kind of have a real narrow section. If you can do different voices, that it kind of really opens up.
Oh,
Um
yeah.
but yeah, it's really really I've been told, "Oh, you got the DJ voice." I was fixing to get into doing audiobooks. I hate reading, so I'd get, like, through a chapter and be like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna make it this."
Yeah,
Hey, but, you
take
know
you 3 years to get half a book, right?
right, like, what's the point? Yeah, you get paid by the, completed hour, and it takes me 2.5 years to do 1 book, so I'd get 3 hours worth of pay. Uh, but, yeah, I've also thought about getting into honeybees. And, uh, I don't know how much you hear, but when it looked up, right, everybody pretty find out that,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
so you've been got into acting. How hard is that to actually
It's very easy. You order your bees this time of year, December, January, February, and you buy some boxes, you throw your bees in there, and then you basically don't do any research, and then you fail, and then you do it again the next year, and then you fail, and then you do it again next year, and you fail, and then you're like, I'm wasting money, and you get out of it. It's it's typically about 3 to 5 years most beekeepers get out of beekeeping because they don't want to do the research. They think beekeeping is easy, which beekeeping is easy. I mean, you go out there, you lift open a box, you look at bees, you figure out what's going on,
right,
and you react to the moment and you fix it, and then you go back. But if you don't have the research in your mind and the knowledge that you've been looking up for the last who knows how long, it's you're just guessing at what they're doing. But the more you research and the more you talk to other beekeepers and the more you go to bee clubs and conferences, hear people like me speaking about bees, then you get more interested and you dive deeper so that when you do see a problem in the hive, you instantly know what to do. You don't just go, well, I don't know what's going on. You shut it back up and then you forget to call somebody, and that was my problem as a bee inspector. It was one of my jobs was in Tennessee, you can't move bees into the state, out of the state, around the state, or through the state unless they've been inspected. So that was, part of my job. The other part was education. And I really like that point, but it was like they would call me up when the bees are in a smaller than a baseball size cluster and they're like, well, I don't know what's going on. Well, at this point, they're about to die. You should have called me when you first noticed something going on, but a lot of times they don't know what's going on and they don't even notice it because they don't have the knowledge. They didn't look it up. It
right,
used to be when I first got into beekeeping, it was like, don't look on YouTube. There's so many horrible videos out there now. YouTube's huge. There's so many great uh, people on YouTube that you can really learn about bees on. So you really need to watch YouTube. You need to go to these bee clubs and talk to the beekeepers, and they will tell you, well, the honey flow's coming up, so get ready to put another box on your hive. Honey flow's over, you need to, start reducing your hive if if they have too much growth. The winter's coming up, you need to do this. Spring's about to come up, you need to do this. So if you don't have that knowledge, yeah, you're going to fail.
yeah,
Freudian. It's you do it over and over, insanity.
and the hive continuously grows, so and there's people that do it as a hobby, and they don't wanna get too big because you can get 5, 10 nests or hives, and so is there a time that you sell them off, or because you have
Yeah.
to keep your hive so small, you have to sell them, right? You can't just run them off and done. You have to
Well, they in the spring, if it's a healthy hive, they will split. And when I got into beekeeping for years, it was like, well, I don't want bees that swarm. I'm like, well, then you want sick bees? You want, bees that are going to die? Like, well, no. Well, then you want bees that will swarm because that means that they're healthy enough and they're viable enough that they've grown enough that they need to split, and the old queen leaves with like half the bees, and then the new queen stays in the hive. So if you don't split your hive and you just wait for them to swarm naturally, then you got to go chase the swarm down and pull them out of the tree. And a lot of times, they're 10, 20, 30 feet up and sometimes 60 feet up in the air. You're not going to get that swarm. And, then they're going to go find your neighbor's house or a tree that, the tree is usually better, but your neighbor's house works really well too. They get inside the wall there, and now your neighbor has got a bunch of honeybees in their house. So it's best if you split your hives, and if you don't want them, sell them, make your money back. You'll make more money selling bees than you will making honey.
Okay. Um, I know I'm gonna kind of shift back, and I'm gonna kind of shift back to the. I think we could probably
All
talk
right.
bees for a while, but I don't know who wants to listen to it, right? Um,
Yeah, right.
um, so who are some of the coolest people you've been with acting in that that people would know?
There's been a lot of great people. There's been people behind the camera that were just awesome, and then there's people, the actors in front of the camera that have been great. Sit here and list a bunch of them. It's just there's so many people, and you just strike up strange conversations there, and especially me once they find out I'm the beekeeper. All of a sudden now it's everybody's got to know about honeybees. But there was the one I did. What was the name of that? Romance in the Smoky Mountains or something like that. It was a Hallmark movie, and I'm sitting there, and I don't, I never watched Vampire Diaries, and it's a couple of the
Never
main
heard of
people
her.
were, yeah, and there was two actors that were on that for a long time, and the one guy he's just sitting next to me, and he's reading through his lines, and I'm just an extra, I'm one of the guys in the background, and he's the main star. And usually you don't talk to these people, you let them do their thing because they are trying to learn their lines and everything. And if they talk to you, then yeah, more than welcome. But I'm sitting there and he looks down at me and then he looks up and he goes, "You ride?" I'm like, "Excuse me?" And he's like, "Your boots." I was wearing my Harley boots. And he goes, I'm like, "Yeah, I used to, but too many motorcycle accidents. So I kind of gave up the motorcycles." He was like, "Oh man, I love riding." And we started talking about riding motorcycles. And come to find out, this guy grew up like, 3 blocks from where my mother grew up in Battle Creek.
Oh
And we
wow.
just had this long conversation about it. And that helped me get bumped up to the front because before I was just this guy kind of in the background
Yep.
playing an archaeologist. And now I'm like standing right up there with the two main actors as they're interacting. And then the other main actor walks up and here I'm, right in the clutch. So I got a lot of good face time just because my mom grew up in the same area as him, and I knew a lot of the areas that he was at. And then I see this other kid that I've been talking to earlier today that's also a background extra, and he's just like jealous as can be because here I'm talking with the two main stars of the show. And, and I mentioned to the lady, I said, that guy over there just adores you so much. And she looks over and she's like, him? And his mouth drops open. And she goes, "Oh, he's so adorable." I said, "Well, you might want to say hi to him at some point." She goes, "Oh, I will." So she went over there and started talking to him, and he was just floored. He couldn't even speak. So it was just, those are like fun times.
Yeah. So what it sounds like to me, right? I'm not gonna get into politics. I ran office. I learned that you have to politics, know people kind of the same way. It's
Oh, yeah.
sometimes
Networking.
it's by chance, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's sometimes you know somebody that knows somebody. But
Yeah.
like you were just in the right place, and then you get that absolutely about politicking, rubbing
Oh, yeah.
elbows with her.
And that was the 3 different movies I got recently. It was just people called me up and they're like, "Hey," or they Facebooked me and said, "Hey, man, I want you for this role." I'm like, "Excellent. I really would love to work with you. I've been wanting to work with you." And they're like, "Yeah, I know." And I'm like, "Oh, well, cool." And so they offered me the job. I'm like, "This is excellent." But there's other times where I went to Nashville and it was a Ben and Jerry's commercial.
Huh?
And we were supposed to be like the background, just walking in a circle. As soon as you come off screen, you walk back around. and then you walk back into the camera view, and the main actor is like telling his whole story about Ben and Jerry's. And I know I'm very observant on a lot of things, and especially when it's acting, you got to be observant.
Right.
And as I'm walking towards the camera, the director's like looking at everything. And as soon as I step out of frame, he's like, action. I'm like, you son of a gun. And then I got to walk around. I go way in the back where I can't be seen. And I come walking up. He's like, cut. And he waits until I go by the camera. Action. I'm like, you son of a gun. And then we went to the big park in Nashville, and they set us all up and everything. And I was talking to one of the assistant director, and she's like, this guy knows Tai Chi. And she goes, it'd be really cool if he was back here, doing Tai Chi. And he goes, no, put him back over there. And he puts me way over. And I'm like, I am not even in frame. And she's like, yeah, he wants you here and walking that way, away from the camera. I'm like, I'm not even in frame right now. And he's like, action. And they're going walking off. I'm like, okay. Apparently he did not like me for whatever I look like. I reminded him of, he didn't like me.
Well, and I mean, that kind of happens anyway, everywhere you go. I try and explain this to got I've got my generation, and there's just people who don't like you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to grin and bear until you get to where you want to be, so that you can do the thing.
Yeah. And you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but we do as humans. We instantly judge somebody as soon as they walk into a room. It's like you either think you're going to like that person or you don't think you're going to like them. And most of the time, you're kind of right if you can observe people enough.
With
But it's
enough
one of those things.
experience,
Oh yeah, yeah. And there's those other people that as soon as you see them, you're like, you feel like you have a connection to them. It's like, and one of my best friends up north, when I was up there, it was when I met him, or I saw him, I was like, that dude looks kind of cool. I'm like, and there was like this, I knew we would be friends at some point. Well, it was like 5 years later after working together. And one day we bid the same machine and we started talking and we had a lot in common. And it was like, we became really good friends. And it was just, and it reminded me like, years back, I was like, yeah, there was something about the guy. And I didn't know him personally. I heard around, we worked in a facility with 500 people. So I knew other people that knew him and they're like, yeah, he's a really cool dude. You guys get along. Well, we never worked together and we always had great times at different times. So we never even saw each other. But when we finally did, it was like, yeah, instant connection, instant likeness. And it's like, cool. So there is those people that you are going to like. But, yeah. But, and at the time I had a goatee, and the tension was very high with that director. COVID was massive. And I got a lot of people that just looked at me and they're like, oh, he's an old white guy that's conservative, and the acting world is very liberal.
Yep.
And I was thinking, well, I wonder if he's just thinking I'm like this old conservative guy and he's instantly got a grudge against me. And it's happened before. People just naturally think I'm a big, huge Trump supporter. And I'm like, guys, I don't talk about sex, politics, war, or religion. I stay away from those topics. And I'm a very happy person because I never get in arguments.
Right. Well, I'm a very unhappy person because I don't get in enough arguments.
Well, I mean, and to get, like, I've been doing social media for a while,
Sure.
Probably since I've been doing acting. Well, probably after that, about 4 years, because I'm like, all right, I need to get myself out there. I need to have people know who I am.
Right.
So I started getting into the whole social media. Now I'm on, I think, 21 or 22 different platforms all over the world. I didn't even know there were so many different social media, and I'm not even on all of them. I'm like, holy crap.
I know
And
I'm slowly finding more and more, and I'm just like, I don't know how I can make a presence on all of these. It's just impossible.
oh yeah, and I pick one for a week or two, and I really post heavy on that. And then I'll pick a different one and post on that. And for some reason, I'm really big in India and
It's
Uh,
because you've got a manly voice and they don't know what those are.
Yeah, the white elephant. What the hell is with this guy? Why does he sound so deep?
Yeah.
What's with that voice?
Hey, deep voice.
But
But
yeah, and I don't know. I don't even know why I started talking about this.
no,
So I do ramble on.
that's good, right? Sometimes we
Yeah.
have to. That's how you get to know people. So we've met each other on Clapper, and we get into some. You don't really get involved in the conversation very often. You tend to stay in the comments when it's more of a chill live. You'll jump in and we'll get into conversations. But you've been in when I get into some of those really good debates, and it's a lot of fun, and I try to be respectful until they turn disrespectful, and
Yeah.
and then it's
And
gloves
it's
off.
always like that. And that was why I originally went into that was I'm not that huge of a creator because of the controversy. You
Yeah,
notice with people that are constantly in controversy, their videos go viral a lot.
right.
Mine don't. Um, and that's the thing, is like you have to be respectful of other people, or else you're not going to have a good conversation or a debate. Otherwise, it gets escalated very quickly. And I've noticed, I don't care which side you're on. If you're a Democrat, you think Republicans are idiots. If you're a Republican, you think Democrats are idiots. So it's hard to have a good conversation with the other side,
Mhm.
or even with religion. If you're a Catholic and you're a Muslim, you both think each other are evil. It's you can't have just a debate anymore. Nowadays tempers are so easily flared that it's instantly becomes this big war, or I'm going to unfriend you, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. It's like you know we used to be adults and we used to have arguments and then go have a beer together, or
Right.
go see you tomorrow at work. It was, all right, we had
Well,
an argument at work. I'm going to go home. I'm going to see my family. I'm going to have a good time. When I come back, the argument was over. I don't even know what we were arguing about because it was stupid.
yeah,
And that's what life is.
you and I are 5 to 10 years apart in age, and I remember a time that we could go out behind the grocery store and beat the shit out of each other, get up, shake
Oh,
each other's hands, and then go around and have a freaking lollipop together because the whatever the problem was settled.
oh yeah,
And
yeah.
and that's not a thing anymore.
No,
And that's we're gonna try not to push too far into that because the conversation can lead into um certain things. But
yeah,
it's almost like people are almost entitled to themselves being right, or
yeah.
their
And
emotions are
I,
more important than anybody else.
well, I don't know if it started with, but one of the things I first noticed it started with was all the participation trophies. It
Mhm.
was competition. You had a winner, you had a loser, and if you lost, you either got better or you just sucked it up.
Well,
And
that's
when
where
they
the
started handing out all these participation, everybody gets a trophy. It's like, well, little Johnny sucks, but it's okay. He still gets a trophy, so he still thinks he's good. And now he grew up, and even if he was wrong, he still thinks he's right. And everybody's like, oh, well, we're just going to include him. So therefore, he is right. Well, that doesn't help us grow as an adult or as a human. It, so you constantly live in this fictitious world where you think you're always right and you're entitled to everything. So I think that's one of the problems. But I think the food system is really messing us up. And they put so many chemicals in our foods now. It's messing with our brain chemistry. People are getting agitated. I mean, like you were just talking about, you went out behind the grocery store and you beat on each other and then you left it at that. Well, now it's gotten to the point where you beat on them, they go down. You should have stopped, but no, now you walk up there and you start kicking them in the head and you kill them or you stomp on their head.
Yep.
And and I'm old school. I don't care. A woman could sit there and beat on me. I'm going to take it.
Yep.
I'm not going to hit a woman. You should never hit a woman. I'm a hell of a lot bigger than most women. And even if the woman's bigger than me, I can walk away. I can block her. I can grab her wrist, and, not hard, but I can grab it so she doesn't hit me.
Yeah,
You
detain.
know, yeah, I don't go, well, she hit me and I knock her out. I mean, her skull is thinner than a man's, and
Yep.
it's easy to knock out a woman if you're a man. So you should never be hitting a woman. You can do some serious damage to people if you start hitting on people. I've been in so many fights. I know the art of the fight. I know the art of the knockout. It's fun to fight, but you never hit a woman.
Never.
And I see so many people hitting women now. It drives me nuts.
Well, that oh, we're starting to get too close into
Yeah, I have a tendency to do that.
It
I try to
well,
stay away from those
I'm
topics,
gonna
but
try I'm trying to
it's
stay
life.
away, but
It's life, man.
it is, and you're absolutely right. Um, I'm gonna try and say what I gotta say without fuck it. You can stop it at any time you want. Um, but it we have got to a point to where the the social norm is changing and they're trying to rip the importance of a woman away that men aren't teaching their boys to be men anymore and to treat women and children with respect and to protect them. They're just treating them like a piece of meat and like they don't fucking matter. And it's really destroying the globe. It's not a national thing. It's a global thing, and it's really outrageous.
And it's the different cultures have different looks on women. You go over to the Middle East and the women are basically second class to a lot of them because they can't vote, they can't talk, unless
Right.
talking to, and then you come over here to America or Canada or even South America and, the women are treated much differently, much better. And, but there's still those people that, like you're talking about, you know, they're treated as a piece of meat. But it's the internet has really screwed up the world, I think, because now you you know, OnlyFans, there's so many porn sites, there's so many this and that. Women are just a piece of meat,
100%.
and even some of the guys are just pieces of meat. You look at these sexy guys or even the fat guys or whatever, it's whatever your fetish is, it's the world has changed so much since I was a kid, and my grandparents, they died just as the computers coming in. Hell, they had horses when they were kids. They didn't even know what a car was. It wasn't even being built yet,
Right.
and now we're here in my lifetime, I was one of the first programmers. I remember the bulletin boards. We were trying to talk about how to make facial recognition and how to do all these things that the computers weren't even good enough. My
Okay.
first computer was a
Maybe you're a little
suitcase.
older than I am.
Yeah. Um, yeah, my first computer, it looked like a Samsonite suitcase, and you took off the end of it and you turned it down, and that was your keyboard, and it had this little 3x3 green screen with green lettering.
Yep, I
And
remember
you had
those.
to write your own program, and then you could run it, and then if you turned off the suitcase, it was gone. There was no hard drive in there. It didn't save anything.
Right, yeah,
You
it's
know,
it's just like the old Ataris and Nintendos and Super Nintendos, Sega Genesis. We didn't have memory cards. You
no,
you had to play the game
yeah,
and let it run all night long while you're sleeping and then all day while you're at school, and then you come home and your machine is just as hot as it can get, and then you're trying to play, but it starts slowing down and lagging, but you're still
yeah.
playing through. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
and you're right. So the internet has done some really good things and some really bad things.
Yeah,
Just like this,
and
right?
that's what everything.
We have the opportunity to communicate with multiple people. Without the internet, I would have never met you.
Yeah,
Um, but the the different ideologies coming together, there becomes major echo chambers, which is facilitating division. And that's what we were talking about earlier, is the division that is happening, and because you have the two different parts of society saying that they're right they're got their echo chamber, and then they're saying they're right, and they got their echo chamber. That when they come together, they just clash so hard. And I try really hard. I'm not always successful at it, but I try really hard to have the hard conversations with people that disagree with me
Yeah.
because I think it's important. I think it's important to have those conversations. And when I was getting into politics, I was like, man, I'm really gonna want to talk to the people across the aisle. And I realized that the corruption is so deep that there is no way of actually talking across the aisle. That's a whole nother conversation. that that
Well,
may
it's
get too deep into.
yeah, and it's with anything in life, you're gonna, and as we grow and we learn more and more, there's going to be, the evil becomes stronger and the good becomes stronger, and in between just dies away. So with the internet, yeah, we can get further and further in the dark net and keep going further and further and getting more evil and evil. But then we have, the AI that has just already done some really cool stuff. It's also very scary. Skynet's going to be here soon, but
Nope.
um, the the technology that keeps doubling every year, and it's just amazing what we can do. So it's been, it brought us together, but it brings across those different cultures so that we start learning about these different cultures instead of hating them, or sometimes it makes us hate it more. But it brings us together from, I can I can just call somebody up on the internet and, talk to them in Japan and the other guys in Brazil, and I'm here in the United States, and we're collabing on something to make something better. Back in the day, I belonged to Mensa, and I also belonged to the Triple Nine Society, and it was like you had to go to these meetings, and then you could sit there and you talked, and there was a secretary there writing everything down, and we were coming up with these incredible plans, and but it was all we had to write everything down, and then we could go back to the internet, and then we could dial up and get on the bulletin boards and start sharing the information. But it was hard to do back then. Now you can do it real time,
Yeah, it's
and it's
quick.
quicker.
You say that. I'm actually getting questions in real time in the back channels, not on any of this stuff. My wife's back here, and she keeps sending me messages through the internet. Um, and she actually raised a really good one with what we're talking about. Um, are you concerned? Somebody brought it up to me a couple days ago, and I thought, holy shit, this is a real thing. Because AI is doing really, really amazing things. Are you concerned that AI is going to take over the voiceover, the acting, concerts? Like they're doing concerts where people aren't even there, and the screens are up, and the musicians are up on a screen. They're doing light shows and all kinds of shit, and it's selling out. Are you concerned that AI may take over?
Well, there was a complete AI movie made, and that was when uh, I think that was back in like September. And it had a few glitches here and there, but it was amazing, and it was a really good movie. And it was like, okay, so this all of a sudden got the acting world like, wait, something's going on. This AI can't be done. And so the union got involved, and they went through, and that's why we had this last union strike. And it was mainly because of the AI. There was also other things, but they went in there and they said, okay, now, because before it was like if I went into a green screen room and they put all the connectors on me and
Right.
I swung it back, and so they could, get the proper swing. Or if I was doing martial arts, I was doing a high kick, it looks good in the video game. Well, previously, they could take my likeness because I already signed that clause or the contract, and they could take my likeness forever.
Yeah.
And, with AI, all of a sudden now I could be anywhere doing anything. Well, now it's in the new contract where no, it's for that specific project. So the AI has been scaring the acting world quite a bit with, they can start taking over the voiceover. So it used to be you instantly knew it was a computer, but now these voices are going really well. And I don't know if you've seen the ones on Instagram and Facebook and stuff, the ads of the girl, I just saw one earlier today, she makes $13,000 a month on it just doing modeling. She's not real. She's an AI. And I'm like,
What?
well, that's the guy or the woman that owns that AI, that girl that's doing the modeling. They're making $13,000 a month. I'm like, okay, this is incredible.
Wow.
So
Well,
the
I
AI
mean,
is very scary,
right. You heard my
but very
intro
cool.
song, right?
Yeah,
My intro song is 100% AI.
yeah.
Like,
And
it's
that's the cool part. I've been into computers ever since I was a kid. I was a computer programmer for a while. I was a hacker since the freaking 80s. I love internet, I love technology. So AI is just fascinating as hell, and I love it. But the other side of me is like, oh hell, this is gonna be bad. This
well,
is gonna be horrible.
somebody said that to me. It was a couple days ago that AI is going to stuff, and I'm thinking, God, I'm just now getting into the idea of doing voiceover. Just now getting into the idea of doing a podcast. I feel like I'm always a day late and a dollar short on everything I damn do. Everything. And I'm really hoping it doesn't happen. But there's also things that computers can't, right? They just can't. They can't be real like you and I. They're only going to I know what you're saying, but the AI is programmed, so there's still real life um flubs or fuck ups and things that you would be like, man, that interview was just too perfect. So
But it's getting better, and it's getting quicker, and it's learning from itself. So, and technology usually doubles every year. Well, with the last few years, it's quadrupling. It's growing so much quicker. So the AI is going to learn. It's going to become more human-like, and that's why I'm more worried about like Skynet. It's eventually going to start taking over, and it's going to start doing a lot of stuff. And I was working with the Joy Foundation for a while, and we were trying to, get in place safeguards. You remember the original three rules for robots. They can't harm humans.
right.
And it was like we need to set this in place for AI because AI is going to, and no one has any safeguards right now
Yeah, and
because they
that was
all,
5 to 10 years ago, if I remember right, that they were talking about the AI and having to put these safeguards in.
yeah,
That was
and nobody's put them in there, and
It still hasn't been done.
no,
That's like the
it's the Wild
government for
West.
40 years not changing their password from password. Like, what's going on here, guys?
Well, it's the internet. The internet's the new Wild West. It has been for decades. And nobody really controls the internet because it's all over the world. It's like, well, you were scammed out of $20,000 because you believe some prince in freaking Africa, is going
Right.
to give you money. Well, you can't go after them because it's over international borders, and that's the internet.
Yeah, there's
It's
no
just too
international
wide open.
law.
Yeah, and and AI is changing so quickly that you just can't, you know, keep it under control because everybody's like, well, why are you limiting it? Well, because it can be dangerous. It's going to start learning from itself, and it already has. And the quicker it learns from itself, the quicker and quicker things are going to keep multiplying, and we're going to be in trouble.
That actually makes me pose a question. I don't know if you want to go down the rabbit hole or not. You could tell me to fuck off. Um, but it with that, at what point is legislation too far, do you
Well, laws are made for stupid people,
I agree.
you-
But
right? Because
they tend to affect the intelligent people because they're made for stupid people.
yes, and so therefore, the government should govern themselves and
100%.
slightly about the people. Local government for local people, and the government's been overstepping for years, but they always tend to pick up
Don't
on
get too
wrong.
comfortable, Jay.
But they tend to, the lobbyists are the ones that are pushing this. Well, there's no really lobbyist out there to push for safeguarding AI.
Hmm?
So And the government is so bogged down in red tape and bureaucracy. Do you think they're ever going to catch up in time for AI? It's going so fast. The
No, they'll
internet
never
is,
catch up.
yeah. So I don't think, I think it's going to be ungoverned for quite a long time. And it's just going to keep getting better and better as far as technology wise.
Then do
But
you
for
think it may
human
be at a
wise,
point to? Do you think it may be at a point of no return at this point?
it depends on human nature.
Because
Are
there's
we going
been,
to
well,
finally?
I mean AI. I mean AI. Do you think AI is at
Well,
a
yeah, but I
point
mean,
of no
we
return
can
to where we
eventually just,
can't govern it anymore?
well, we can always pull the plug on it. All we have to do is shut down all the servers and reboot. But if AI figures that out, because now I've said that and it's out there on the internet, and the
Right.
AI will scour every interview, every YouTube, and every TikTok. It's going to learn that. Well, wait a minute. If all they have to do to kill me is shut everything off, well, then I'm going to make sure I have a
A safeguard.
backup in Singapore. I'm going to have a backup in Portugal. I'm going to have a backup in Germany, and
Right.
therefore you would have to shut down the entire world. But it's
Yeah,
one of those
that's what
things
I was about
also.
to say is since it is worldwide, you can't just shut down the US servers because they can go everywhere. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
the in my opinion, the best representation in a film was Hawkeye. Hawkeye,
yeah,
in my opinion, was the best representation of the possibility of AI and its nefarious um nature that could happen. Um,
yeah.
and since we made it back to movies, my wife introduced a question to me a while back, but we were in a different conversation. Um, you were saying whenever you started that you were a bee inspector, but were any
Mhm.
of your bees ever in film?
Yes. It was
Wow.
actually before I actually became a beekeeper. The National Park Service, they came out and they did a little thing on how to milk cows, and they noticed that there's bees here on the farm. So they called me back up, and because my wife did that kind of show, and I just don't milk a cow very well. I've tried, but my hands are too big, and our cows are miniature cows, so it doesn't work out very well. So they saw the
So you
bees
can't
and they
milk
said,
it. You
well,
can't milk an almond.
yeah, and I really suck at milking cats too. So, you know,
I've got nipples. Could you
um,
milk me?
well, we could try. But anyways,
But yeah, you.
they called me up about doing a show on honeybees, and they were just going to do like this little 5 minute segment like they usually do. And they came out, and I started talking about honeybees. They realized how interesting they are, and it ended up being the whole show was nothing but honeybees. So I was on. My honeybees have been on TV just as long as I have.
Really, that's actually so. Whenever she asked that question, I automatically thought of the movie Beekeeper. Have you seen that one
Yeah,
yet? That's a pretty good movie.
I have yet to see it.
It's a pretty good
So
one. Um,
yeah,
but
and I hear he does pretty good as a beekeeper too. So
that's I don't know anything about it, but by the storyline, he's pretty good at it. Um,
yeah,
but I she said that, and I thought, hey, maybe those were his. But I mean, that's the chances are pretty slim.
yeah.
But hey, I appreciate you coming on, bud. I will absolutely love to have you on again. Uh, I've had a lot of fun, and
Cool.
and I think that we can talk about so much more,
Oh
and
yeah, there's so many
so
topics.
so much
Once you
more.
start getting to know me, you'll know I got my fingers in every damn thing, and I've had a really great life, and I've done a lot of different topics, so I can cover a lot of stuff for you.
Well, that's
And
freaking awesome, man. I'm if you would, whenever we drop down and I start the outro, if you would hang out, so we can continue talking and get some stuff taken care of right at the end. All right, buddy.
cool.
I really appreciate it. This has been awesome. I hope a lot of people find this and it helps you long run. Hell, I hope it helps me. Um,
Well, I really appreciate you having me on here, and I appreciate everybody watching. So I do.
no, I'm telling you, man, don't. You're doing me a favor. You really are. I am humbled. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everybody, thanks for coming. Let everybody know to come watch Jay. I'm not going to try and say his last name again. I'll put it in the title. Thank you, guys.
Sounds
Have
good.
a good one.
And drag them in, and they'll follow you until the day you die. I tell myself I've dealt this before. It's hard to get a handle on you walking out the door. So just take another message to the people who know more. The talk is growing on.